Hi everyone, I am Dr. Andi. It is time for today's Facebook Live. As I give all of you the opportunity to log on and join today, I'll give you a brief introduction into who I am, a little bit about my background. So I'm a naturopathic physician. I have been practicing in Toronto, Canada now for just over 12 years. My practice focuses on hormonal and metabolic balance, fat loss, our hormone rebalancing as well. We have a focus on chronic illness, so chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, chronic pain, and then also on patients who are looking more for longevity medicine, regenerative medicine, just want to live longer and be as healthy as they possibly can while they do that. In my practice, our foundation of our providers is really that low-key keto standpoint. I personally have been keto for over 10 years now. It was a sort of health, sort of medical issue on my end, digestive problems, and I kind of fell into keto. I fell into keto at that time and sort of started doing a little bit more research and really discovered the benefits of the ketogenic lifestyle, started to introduce that into my practice and my patients. And then of course, the opportunity and obviously be able to introduce really turned out to be sort of a game changer for a lot of them who weren't able those who weren't really able to follow a ketogenic diet, or were looking to actually optimize their ketogenic diet or keto lifestyle. So that was a really important thing for them. So I'm going to start today and talk a little bit about how I get my patients started following or taking exogenous ketones, and then how I get them started following a ketogenic diet. And then I'm going to dive into your questions. I know I will try and answer as many as I can. Or go back and answer some if I'm able, if I miss them during the call. But just keep writing your questions in if I don't see it. Hopefully I'll catch it and I'll be able to answer it on our call. So the first thing that I like to introduce my patients to when they're starting is not to really get lost in a lot of the research. Don't get lost in all the information. It can be very overwhelming with all of the information that you can read online when it comes to, keto lifestyle. And so with respect to just starting exogenous ketones, I usually encourage my patients just to start with one serving first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning, empty stomach if you can. For some people, if you're having some digestive issues, then that's not a problem. You can introduce some healthy fats. So introduce some healthy fats just to sort of coat your gut a little bit, but that's generally how I have people start. And then if you are active or if there's some other kind of outcome that you're looking for, I'll often introduce a second serving to my patients. And then with someone who's wanting to add in the ketogenic diet to that, I'll usually say introduce your intermittent fasting, take your ketones first thing in the morning, and then you've got 2 meals left in the day and only one of them can have a carbohydrate. So if you want to have a sandwich for lunch, then just make sure that your dinner is more nice, olive oils, leafy greens, protein, things like that. And that's a really great way to get people started and some really easy changes. So let's start answering some of your questions that I can see coming in. I have fibromyalgia and ketones make me feel swollen. Why is that? Usually that's a sign if you feel like you're retaining water. Usually that's a sign of dehydration. So you probably need some more minerals and some more electrolytes. So we know that we want you to drink a lot of water, because ketogenic diet and ketones can act as a little bit of a diuretic. So what I would suggest is to make sure you're taking electrolytes. You can take the Mitoplex, you can mix it right in with your ketones and drink them together. And then also make sure you're getting enough minerals in general. Many people are magnesium deficient, potassium deficient, so it might be that you have some minerals that you're needing to manage. It can often be counterintuitive when someone says, I'm feeling swollen and bloated. And then someone say, well, you need actually to have more water, more electrolytes, more minerals. But that is generally what you need to do. So up your electrolyte intake. When you drink your ketones, take them, just mix your Mitoplex right in with your ketones. Make sure you're getting your magnesium in the evening or that you don't have any other mineral or nutrient deficiencies that need to be managed. You're seeing that the effects of the keto app, you're feeling that they last only 2 hours versus 4. So the amount of times that ketones are going to last in your system is very different for everybody. So for example, if you take them right before a workout, your body will use them much faster because it's going to be used as a fuel source. So it really depends on your need. And so again, it could be 2 hours, could be 4 hours in your system, but depends on the needs of your body at that time. And so it's entirely possible that your body will use the ketones a little bit faster, depending on what is happening or activities that you're engaging in. Is it safe for people with type 1 diabetes to drink ketones? I'll get back to the type 1 diabetes question just to answer quickly your question about low iron. Have I seen people end up with low iron when taking ketones? No. Drinking ketones, exogenous ketones, will not cause low iron. So if you have low iron, I'm assuming you also need ferritin there. If you have low iron, talk to your doctor and find out why that could be. Lots of things can contribute to low iron if you're vegan, vegetarian, not eating enough protein. If you have gut malabsorption issues, celiac, anything like that, that can all cause malabsorption and can contribute to some low iron. So drinking the ketones, no, won't cause low iron. So there's probably something else going on that you need to investigate a little bit there. Type 1 diabetes. So is it safe for people with type 1 diabetes to drink ketones? So the first thing I'll say is when it comes to diabetics, type 1 or type 2, before embarking on a ketogenic diet or exogenous ketones, you have to make sure you're working with a provider who is familiar with, who's knowledgeable in working with ketones, ketogenic diets. You need to make sure your provider is on board. In the instances of diabetes, these are the only instances where I'd say you have to be cautious. You have to make sure that you are controlled diabetic. The concern is diabetic ketoacidosis, which is really elevated levels of ketones in your system. That cannot happen if diabetics can be a concern. So you have to be a controlled diabetic. That's the most important in order to, before you engage in a ketogenic diet or taking exogenous ketones. And then if you are a controlled diabetic, you also have to manage your blood ketone levels as diligently as you monitor your blood glucose levels, just to make sure that they're staying in check. The interesting thing with the research that we're seeing with type 1 diabetics is they actually show better responses with the exogenous ketones. So there could be some benefit there, but again, you have to work with your healthcare provider. Make sure that you're a controlled diabetic, and same with type 2 diabetes. If you're late stage, some of those individuals are needing insulin at that point. So just make sure that you're working with a provider. Who really is knowledgeable in this space and can help guide you. I seem to get constipated since I've been drinking ketones. So generally, I've seen a few questions about constipation. So again, that's generally a sign that you are probably a little bit dehydrated. Also probably a bit magnesium deficient. Many people are magnesium deficient. One of the more sort of prominent signs of magnesium deficiency is constipation. So if you're getting constipated when you take them, make sure you're taking your electrolytes, mix them right in with your ketones, drink them together, and make sure that you're getting enough magnesium. So I usually recommend 200 to 400 milligrams of magnesium threonate, which is very calming to the nervous system. So I usually recommend that right before bed, and that should be all you need. You can increase by 1 serving nightly until you get the dose that allows you to have a solid, easy to pass bowel movement the next day. How best to get MCT into your regime? So there are a few ways that you can do that. Some people, if you're doing smoothies and things like that, will mix them right into their smoothies. Some people will mix them right into their coffee in the morning, use a little hand frother, and just sort of blend them together. So some people will do that as well. You can use it as a dressing, put it on salads, you can cook with it. So put it on your food, drizzle it over your veggies. All of those things are options. And the other option, because it's flavorless, is just take a full teaspoon of it. Some people don't like that because it has an oily consistency, but I find that that's really the easiest way to do it. That's how I often take it, is just take a little teaspoon or a tablespoon of it, depending on how much you take, and just swallow it down and then just rinse it back with some water. But I do find that that's the easiest way, to take it. So lots of people sharing some of their weight loss goals, which is amazing. So Carol is down 75 pounds. That's fantastic, Carol. Congratulations. So that's in 8 sizes. I love hearing that. I'd love to know the time frame of that too for you. And on that note, I wanted to, and Darla, you're down 45 pounds, which is also incredible. So congratulations. I love hearing success stories and how these things have worked well for you. I do want to say on that note though, for those of you who came into sort of the keto lifestyle with the expectation of fat loss, And some people don't see that fat loss in the very beginning, and then they can get quite frustrated because they're expecting that fat loss sort of early and in the beginning. You hear a friend who, took it and they lost 20 pounds in the first month. And so I just like to remind everyone that everyone's experience is going to be different. We all come from a different metabolic state, a different metabolic background. And so for some people, it's going to take a little bit longer. And know that there are things happening internally that you can't see, changes in our leptin and our ghrelins or hunger and satiety hormones. So just know that there are things that you may not be seeing right off the bat that can still be impacted, that do affect your ability to lose fat long term. And then understand that there are other underlying things that may often need to be addressed. So whether that's hormones, thyroid imbalance, gut dysfunction, all of those things can also impede your ability to lose weight. So I love hearing those stories, but for those of you who are trying and haven't had that story, don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged at all. It's just there are other things that sometimes need to be addressed first before you see that weight loss. You have so many ketones and reboot kits. How do I get back on the bandwagon? So I don't know if that means how do you get back on the bandwagon of sort of restarting your. So what I usually encourage people, sometimes the reboot can be a little bit overwhelming to start for people who either have never done fasting before, or it's been a while since they've really engaged in something like that. Really trying, what I usually encourage is trying some intermittent fasting first. So the 16-hour fast from dinner until your first meal the next day. And then if you can, once a week, you can extend that to 24 hours and do that for about a month. And then after that, you can start engaging in a reboot. I find that's a really great way to prepare yourself. Talking about hormones as well, and really trying every diet, but it was really when you did the full hormones. And yes, so absolutely. So as I was mentioning before, with some of the things that can impact, that can impede your ability to lose fat, hormones are the biggest thing. So for men, it can be a loss of testosterone. For women, it could be menopause, losing estrogen and progesterone. You could also be, for men, estrogen dominant, which is carrying a little bit too much estrogen in your cells. Women can also be estrogen dominant, obviously, so needing to rebalance, really needing to rebalance some of those hormones. And do I recommend a natural hormone for stubborn postmenopausal body fat? That's from Nikki. So yes, I think, I feel like all women should be, if it's safe for them, be taking bioidentical hormones. I feel like a lot of women are really very much left to suffer as they go through perimenopause, which just perimenopause is the phase before menopause, which can last 5, 10, 15 years. So women can enter perimenopause at 40. And so you have 10 or 15 years of hormonal balance to get through before you can go into menopause. And so in those 10, 15 years, this is where we start to gain that belly fat, the cortisol imbalances, insulin resistance. And so you have a lot of options as you start to lose those hormones. And so the best is to find a functional medicine provider near you and to start taking some bioidentical hormones. Again, if your provider says that that's safe for you. That's usually what I would recommend as sort of the natural hormone option. There's nothing else that replaces a hormone. There are a lot of supplements that, we'll hear about balancing hormones and things like that. But I mean, if you're wanting your hormones back, you're going to have to take a bioidentical hormone replacement. So that's really, I think that's one of the best options for menopausal women. Does the body choose ketones or glucose if both are present? So it's a great question because it's only in recent years that we've actually been able to have both present at one time. In the past, before we had exogenous ketones, the only way to get into ketosis was a very low carbohydrate diet, high fat diet that allowed you to transition into ketosis. And then obviously now with that, you can now have glucose present and take your exogenous ketones, so you can have both. And so what we're actually finding is that some of our organs will preferentially choose ketones as their primary fuel source. So the heart, the brain, the muscle will often choose ketones when presented with both ketones and glucose. So we're finding that there is a preferential fuel source for some of our organs, and it is usually ketones. Is there a facility or medical care program or doctor similar in Missouri? My suggestion would be to search for a functional medicine doctor. They're all over. So just search for a functional medicine doctor in your area and you'll be able to find one, and they should be able to, or be well versed in keto, open to keto, well educated in keto if they've done the necessary training, and open to hormones and all the extensive blood work that you really need to get a comprehensive assessment of your health. So look for a functional medicine doctor in your area, and you should be able to find someone who practices in a similar way. Can you explain why ketones help with sleep? Good question. So what we're finding with ketones is that, because a lot of people report better sleep when they're taking, obviously, the caffeine-free version. And what we're actually finding is that beta-hydroxybutyrate contributes to the production of GABA. GABA is a neurotransmitter, a very calming neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitters are just chemical messengers in the brain. I often would give my patients chewable GABA when they have panic or anxiety attacks. People who are having sleep problems and they're saying that, their mind is racing at night and they just can't turn the brain off. It's just turning. They can't calm their mind down to get to sleep. In those instances, I would often give my patients GABA as well. And so what we're finding is that beta-hydroxybutyrate actually contributes to the production of GABA. This could be why, this could absolutely be why people are experiencing benefits from sleep when they take it. It could be that we're stimulating some more of that GABA, which is nice and calming to the nervous system. So especially people who have anxiety might see that as well. And there's some really interesting research going on right now in the space of ketones, beta-hydroxybutyrate, anxiety, depression, PTSD. So a lot of really great research happening right now in that space. You started with the 10-day challenge, then 24-hour fast. That's great. Yes, the 24-hour fasts are great. I love the 24-hour fasts before the reboot. And again, leading up to the reboot, I usually encourage doing the 24-hour fast once a week, so your body is just prepared for what that feels like. If you're used to fasting, then go right ahead. You can jump in. If you're a little bit nervous because you don't know how your body will respond, then take some time. Just take some time and get your body ready, prepare, see how your body will respond so you won't be surprised. Your A1C went down from 11 to a 7.5 in 3 months. That's fantastic. Again, I love hearing those stories. So that's so wonderful. Again, that's a question of diabetes. We're measuring A1C for diabetes. So a drop from 11 to 7.5 is quite significant. So thanks for sharing that. That's really wonderful. I had thyroid cancer. It seems like I can't lose weight. And you've been doing this for months now. So what I would say in that instance as well is keep going. Keep doing what you're doing because you're doing the right things. If you're making the lifestyle, the diet, and you're taking your ketones and you've been approved to do that, that's wonderful. And now you need to investigate some other things as well. So you need to make sure, I'm assuming they've removed your thyroid. I don't know that for sure, but my assumption is that's the case. Make sure that you're getting a full thyroid panel done. So you know all your thyroid hormones to make sure that the dose of the thyroid medication that you're on is high enough so that your thyroid levels are where they need to be, because an imbalanced thyroid can also impede your ability to lose weight. So just make sure that you're getting that managed, and then know and understand that after any type of severe stress, we know there's massive inflammation, you might be spiking cortisol, and all of those things can impede your ability to lose weight. So if you've been doing it for a few months, your body probably needs a little bit more time just to adapt and return to normal. So be patient with yourself. You obviously just went through a really significant, procedure. And so just be patient, understand that your body is calming inflammation down, your stress levels are going down. So there are some other things that need to be regulated first. That might be why you're not seeing the weight loss that you want. So again, keep going, but then also make sure you're working with the right functional medicine provider who's testing all of your hormones and making sure that your levels are not just normal, but they're optimal, because there's a very big difference between normal and optimal. So making sure that those levels are exactly where you want them to be. Darla saying your fatty liver is almost gone as well. That's also amazing. Oh my goodness, Nancy, you dropped A1C from 13 to a 5.2. No more cholesterol, lost 26 pounds. That's fantastic. Again, I love hearing those stories. So another significant drop in A1C. That's absolutely amazing. Is there a reason somebody would bloat during a fast? So yes, some people may bloat initially during a fast. It depends what your diet and lifestyle was like before. It depends on your gut health as well. If there's a little bit of microbiome dysfunction or anything like that underlying. Usually what that makes me think of is SIBO, so small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So that's something you might want to investigate as well. But yes, bloating initially during the fast, usually though as you're later or longer into the fast, depending, I don't know how long of a fast you're referring to here. I don't know if you mean the reboot or if you mean the 24-hour fast, I'm not sure. But usually sort of longer into a fast that does resolve, but generally fasting is quite beneficial for gut health. So if somebody does have SIBO or microbiome dysfunction or anything like that, fasting is really one of the greatest things they can do for the gut. So I would just investigate and see if there's something else underlying that might need to be treated, because usually fasting is quite helpful for that. It might be that you just need a little bit more prep time, so just sort of prepare yourself a little bit more. So I would think of those things, think of some of those things as well. I can't take apple cider vinegar anymore because it gives me heartburn. What can I take to replace it? So I don't actually think you need a direct replacement for apple cider vinegar. If it gives you heartburn, then you don't need more stomach acid. So you're not looking for a direct replacement for that, or you shouldn't be looking for a direct replacement for that. If you're having digestive issues, you're going to need to talk to your functional medicine provider. You might need a digestive enzyme, you might need some ox bile, but you don't need more acid if it's giving you heartburn. So you don't actually want a direct replacement for apple cider vinegar if it's giving you heartburn in general. You're probably going to need something else to manage the digestive issues, or if you're having problems breaking down food. So you might need something different. But again, I'm not sure about your overall digestive health in general. So you'll have to work with your provider to figure out what it is you actually need now, but it's not more stomach acid. How many ketones can we drink in a day? You can drink quite a few in a day. I'm usually recommending twice a day. 1 a day to start, and then sort of going up to 2 a day if you're exercising or if you're getting a little bit of a dip in the day. But you can drink a lot of ketones in a day without there being an issue. I think the last time we did this, it was 40 sachets in a day. I don't know who is drinking that much in a day. I don't know who would want to drink that much in a day. You don't need that much. So you can drink 2, 3 in a day. That's really not a problem. It would be quite difficult to drink so much. You're going to get your blood ketone levels to a dangerous level. And you wouldn't need to anyway. So 2, 3 days, perfectly fine. If you end up 4 a day, it's also fine. So yes, I wouldn't really worry too much about sort of like overdoing it. Again, of course, if you have a medical condition or anything like that, then obviously please talk to your healthcare provider. Can keto make your thyroid stop working properly? No, I don't know if you're referring to ketogenic diet or to exogenous ketones. So we'll talk about exogenous ketones first. So beta-hydroxybutyrate does not have a detrimental impact on the function of the thyroid. A lot of concerns are with the ketogenic diet and thyroid, with people suggesting that the thyroid needs carbs to function, and a low-carb diet will cause disruptions in thyroid hormone. And we know that that's not quite accurate. What we really essentially need for the hormonal balance are the fats. So the only time I see disruption or issues are if someone's following a keto diet and they're eating just chicken and lettuce, essentially. They're not getting the healthy fats in. They're not getting the fats they need to balance the hormones. They're carb-free and fat-free, and that's where we might see some issues. So it's really important to make sure you're getting those healthy fats, the healthy plant-based fats. So avocados and olive oils and things like that, that's really essential to incorporate into your diet. But the thyroid does not need carbohydrates to function. It's actually the reverse, that when we eat carbohydrates, we have to actually produce more thyroid hormone in order to digest it and break it down. So sometimes people confuse those two, but no, we don't need carbohydrates for optimal function. Is it bad to drink ketones twice a day? No, you can definitely drink it twice a day, no problem doing that. Often people like to do morning and afternoon. Take a caffeine-free one if you know that you have issues with sleep or if you think it's going to disrupt your sleep. But no issue drinking 2 a day. That's not a problem. Tips for building muscle for over 50. For building muscle over 50, obviously weight training. That's the best way to build. That's the best way to build muscle. Weight training, and then you can just do things to support building muscle. Beta-hydroxybutyrate can do that. Obviously, so there are quite a few other things that you can do to support muscle building and muscle growth after 50. Don't ever let someone tell you that with age we can't do that, because that's not true. 100% absolutely you can. So weight training is your start, and then just making sure that you have the nutrients to support the growth of the muscle. And so some people, so you can use the beta hydroxybutyrate as a fuel source. There is some research showing that it can help to build or maintain muscle mass. And then there are probably some other things that I would add in as well, just depending on, goals and the type of workouts that you have. But that would essentially be a good start. Does caffeine-free still give you energy? Yes, it does. It's not just the caffeine that's providing energy. The beta hydroxybutyrate can act as a fuel source. It can act as a fuel source for the brain. It can fuel the mitochondria, which is how our body creates energy. So yes, you will still get that energy, the impact with respect to energy if you have the caffeine-free version. The caffeine taking out the caffeine doesn't make them less effective. Why do I still get diarrhea? If you are getting diarrhea, then I would suggest taking them with a little bit of food if you're not. So just, maybe take half a sachet instead of full sachet, take a little bit of food, a little fattier food like avocado, just to coat your stomach a little bit. And that is often all you need to sort of counteract that side effect. And then eventually you can go up to back to the full serving. So people say exogenous ketones don't work because you have to burn so many ketones before they burn fat for fuel. So ketones don't work because there aren't enough ketones in a pack for you to be able to burn it. So in any case, so no, that's not the case. Exogenous ketones will still absolutely work. I do like to preface by saying that ketones are not a weight loss supplement. It is very important to remember that. They're not a weight loss supplement, but we do see fat loss a secondary benefit to what it's doing in our system. Your body will absolutely make use of ketones in your system if you consume them through a beverage. And the research does support that, and to show that your body can absolutely use ketones that you've consumed through a drink. And there are enough in there for you to see benefit from consuming it in a drink. So hopefully that answers your question. I hope I understood that question correctly. But yes, the amount that you're consuming through the beverage is enough for you to see benefit. So question about going low carb as well. You don't have to go low carb when you're taking exogenous ketones, although from a doctor's standpoint, I'm always encouraging my patients to do that anyway, because we obviously, I always say control the things you can, and we can control what we put in our mouth, and so therefore the impact that it has on our body. So control the things you can. So I do encourage my patients to make the dietary changes, but no, you don't have to. That's the benefit of taking exogenous ketones, is experiencing the benefit of being in nutritional ketosis without following a ketogenic diet. So you will still get the benefit. But of course, I do always recommend for my patients that they follow the lower carb diet. It doesn't even have to be full keto, but a lower carb diet as well. But you will still see benefit even if you don't. So last question. So can you drink ketones without a gallbladder? Yes, absolutely. The concern is more so if you are following a ketogenic diet, if you don't have a gallbladder and it's the higher fats, your body's not really able to digest them. Taking exogenous ketones is not a problem. If you don't have a gallbladder, so that shouldn't be an issue. It's more just if you're consuming fatty foods and don't have a gallbladder, and then you're going to need to take some ox bile to help digest your fats. So that time flew by today, as always, everybody. I hope I got to most of your questions. I will try to go back and answer some if I missed any, but enjoy the rest of your week.